everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make this card using supplies from close to my heart. So let's get started. I have the set called By the Fireplace and the window thin cut and the wood grain embossing folder. The papers I'm using are wood grain papers and Comfort and Joy papers, along with vanilla cardstock and toffee cardstock. So I'm cutting my piece of vanilla cardstock at 3 by 3, and this is where I'm going to stamp my little scene that's behind the window. So this is a new set, and I'm gonna season my stamps after I place them on my blocks. So I'm just rubbing my new stamp with a microfiber cloth until it gets cloudy. And with some of these larger stamps, if you notice there's some air bubbles when you mount them on your block, if you want to lift them up and get rid of that air bubble, it ensures a more clean stamped image if you don't have any air bubbles. So that's why I picked that stamp up and placed it back down. So I'm going to use the tree and the big comfy chair, and then later on you'll see I'll add another item to my scene there. So I'm going to stamp the tree in evergreen ink, and I'm just using my thin cut and kind of figuring out the placement of where I want to stamp on that piece of vanilla cardstock so that the tree will show through the window panes. So I'll get that stamped out, and then I just clean up my blocks with my stamp chamois. And then I'm figuring out where to stamp the chair, and I'm stamping that in espresso. And then I'm gonna place the window frame down again, and I decided I needed something else for my little scene, so I chose the little wreath, and I'm gonna put that above the chair. And I'm going to stamp that in evergreen as well. So I'm going to season that really quick, and then I'll stamp it out in evergreen. Okay. And then I decided I needed a little more color to my scene. So I've sped this up super fast. I just decided to keep all the coloring in. And I decided to add a little color using the tri-blend markers to my image. So you can see me color super fast. Usually it's preferred to use black ink with alcohol markers, but since I'm not doing a ton of blending and I'm not really saturating my cardstock, I just decided to go for it and use a little bit of color with these markers. And it turned out to be okay. The image didn't bleed very much, so it all worked out. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in my Big Shot, and I'm going to cut my images. So this is the wood grain paper, and I'm going to cut my frame out using the thin cut. I'll run that through. And then there's a windowsill and a window sash, I think is what it's called, for the top of the window. I'm going to cut those two pieces out as well on the same pattern paper. So that's the windowsill. And then we'll just see what I wind up using on the card. So I like to have all my pieces cut out before I start assembling, so I have it all ready to go. Okay, so that's cut out. And then I'm going to cut the two shutters using the red pattern papers from Comfort and Joy. So we'll run those through, and they cut the little, I forget what they're called, the slats for the shutters are not cut all the way through. So you'll see me kind of fold them up a little bit in the next one here. just to give it a little more definition. So I'm folding those up a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to bring in the wood grain embossing folder and a piece of toffee cardstock that is the same size as my card front will be at 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm going to run that through. So I've got my embossed background. Okay, so now I'm going to get the Big Shot out of the way, and I need to stamp my sentiment. So I have this set that's called Seasonal Borders, and it has a bunch of sentiments for all holidays throughout the year. So I'm going to use the one that says Merry Christmas, and I'm going to stamp that out in black ink on the white daisy. Okay, so first I thought I was going to use a tabbed thin cut shape, but I didn't like the way that it looked after I got it cut out. So I decided to just trim down my sentiment, and I'm going to hand cut this strip into a little banner. So I'm going to dovetail each end by hand. It's super easy. So you just take your fine tip scissors and you cut in the center, and then you take each corner to meet that cut so that you have your little triangle cut out of the end. And then you do the same thing on the other side. So there's my sentiment. So now we're ready to start assembling the card. So I've got a regular A2 size card. So I'm just going to glue this piece of toffee embossed cardstock down direct to the front of my card. And I'm using this Bonding Memories glue, and sadly it's been discontinued and retired, but I still have a bunch of my stash, so I'm going to continue using it as long as I have it. It's one of my favorite glues for making cards, so I will have to find a substitute when I run out. So I'm going to glue that to my card front, and now I'm just going to lay everything out just to see the placement. And then I quickly realized that my scene was not going to fit if I did it vertically, so I switched it to landscape, and that worked. So I'm just laying everything out, and then when I put the windowsill on the scene, it did not leave me enough room to put my sentiment on the front of the card, so I decided not to use the windowsill. I fussed with it a little bit. Ultimately, I decided not to use the windowsill, but I'm still using the top part of the window on my scene. I tried, it just wasn't working, so decided not to use it. Okay, so now I'm just going to get everything ready to start gluing down. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it and centering my window scene, and then pushing it up a bit just so that I'll have room to fit my sentiment at the bottom. And then I'm going to use some of this Tombow Aqua, and I'm just putting my glue around the outsides so that I can have those little slats for the shutters kind of bent up just a little bit for definition. You could really fold them up if you wanted to, but I just wanted to do just some slight folding. And I quickly realized that it's easier to fold them before you glue it to the front of your card. So this one I went ahead and I folded it some more before I added glue. So we'll get those down. All right. Then I'm going to take some thin foam tape, and I'm going to make that window frame pop. And so I'm going to skip ahead. You don't have to watch me putting foam tape down on this. It took a little while, so I'm ready now to mount everything on the card. So I'm going to place that down, kind of give it a little more three-dimensional look. with the window pane. And I'm going to pop the sentiment as well with the foam tape. I'll put that down. And then I'm going to add the sash, the top part of the window frame, to the top of the card there. I don't know what that part is called. So anyway, it's on there now. And the very last step, I'm going to add some liquid pearls to my Christmas tree to make those ornaments look a little three-dimensional. So I'm just putting little teensy dots. And this color is called Carnation Red. And then for the star, I will use bisque. I didn't use a ton. I just squeezed a teensy bit out on each of those ornaments. And the same thing for the top of the tree. So that's my card. So all of these supplies are currently available in my online store. The URL is in the upper right corner of your screen. I will make a list with links of everything in the description below, and you can go there to purchase these items. I appreciate you watching my video today. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, and thanks for watching.